What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, reviewing today the Shadow of the Colossus Remake. In the ongoing conversation about games as an art form, there's one project that's brought up more than any other. With its large, beautiful landscapes, towering bosses, and mysterious story, Shadow of the Colossus is certainly something worth talking about. However, at release, this groundbreaking title was mostly unnoticed, taking years to gain real popularity. That's why in 2011, Sony decided to repackage this masterpiece and bring it to the PS3, and while both of these original versions of the game are fantastic, they were never quite flawless. The controls in this game always left a bit to be desired. They were an aspect of a great game that you sort of had to deal with at times because they could be a little bit glitchy. Your horse would run away, or your grip could sometimes break free when you didn't intend to. Finally though, a full decade after its launch, we're at last getting a true remaster of Shadow of the Colossus that aims to perfect these small gameplay issues and bring the world to life with even more stunning visuals. The question I want to answer today is this worth buying again, and possibly for a third time? Honestly, yes. This title is just as massive and breathtaking as it's always been, and with the changes they've made, there's now more reason than ever to come back to this place. Our story opens with a lone man called Wanda riding a horse into this creepy area up in the mountains, and he's carrying with him what appears to be a dead woman. Who she is and what her relationship is to our hero isn't exactly known, but it's clear that she was someone very important for him to be willing to come here. Upon making it inside this temple at the top of the ridge, a voice belonging to a godlike being called Dorman greets us. This being has been stuck in the Forbidden Land for eons, but he makes a deal with our young friend Wander. He promises that if we can track down and defeat each of the colossi that live in this cursed territory, it'll open up the gates of death and revive our lost companion. This sets us loose on our giant journey to try and defeat these impossibly big bosses. At its core, Shadow of the Colossus is very simple, and that's why it works so well. There's not much talking, the story is extremely straightforward, and most of what you're doing is just wandering around in giant empty areas. That's not a negative though. Instead, this land becomes a character all on its own. There's long moments where you're just using your sword to try and shine the reflection to guide the path and figure out where to go next. But even when you do discover your target, there's a lot to learn. Each of these giants needs to be defeated in a different way because they come in many different shapes and sizes. From a slow lumbering creature that almost looks as if it could be a giant dog waiting to be pet, or this huge flying creature over the ocean. Making it to these monsters is only half the battle, because once you're here, it's all about figuring out how best to take them down. Each of them though does have the same weakness, which is being stabbed in this glowing light. It seems like all their power and their life force resides here, and by hitting it with your ancient blade, each time they get a little bit closer to death. However, doing that of course means you're going to be climbing all over these huge titans. It's while you're doing this that you really begin to notice so many of the gameplay tweaks they've made in this remake. For example, the grip meter has been changed so it's a little bit more clear when you need to let go to avoid taking damage, and they've also made it where you can actually fall a little bit further before you stumble. In the original version, every single time our character went off any ledge, he would immediately have to do this long animation of him stumbling like, oh no, I'm about to break my foot. Now, there's a lot more of a recovery period. You're given more opportunities to leap on these titans and jump off. And I feel like this makes the overall experience of getting high up and getting down a lot more fluid. And on top of that, I'm very, very thankful that they've completely redone the sound design. Normally, I'm not a guy who really notices that too much, but there's just so much clearer audio. I can hear each creak of their movement and sometimes even predict the next attack they're going to do by hearing their joints actually crumble and creak as they're moving. Now, this is fantastic, and I feel like it actually added a lot to the world itself. This place is all about loving and respecting these monsters as we take them down, and I feel like I was able to grow a greater appreciation for the fact that these are living beings. While we are of course set on the mission of trying to defeat them all, it's not to say that we should actually hate them, and I feel like having such crisper visuals and more stunning art along with all this better sound design gives me a deeper appreciation for what this game is supposed to be. It is very much an interactive painting. Now that sounds extremely cliche, but really, Shadow of the Colossus is about the art of video games, about telling a story that transcends words. It is about action, and this PlayStation 4 remake really seems to emphasize that more clearly than it's ever been. Making my way through each of these different areas and trying to find my way through paths that I haven't walked in almost 10 years was really riveting, and I feel like it's even more poignant today. In an age where so many games are trying to be big first-person shooters or have this giant multiplayer aspect, it's cool to have a game that has really nothing but a big fight. This game basically is just 16 incredibly memorable fights that are all stacked up back to back. Each one becomes its own story in and of itself, of how you managed to climb them, the times you've fallen off, and exactly how guilty you feel with each new time you manage to sink your blade into their weak point. This game is still just as amazing as it was all the way back on the PlayStation 2, but manages to finally reach an all-new level of potential. So I have to say, this is a must-buy, especially because they made it a little bit cheaper than a full-price game. At $40, this is a steal of a deal, and I honestly think everybody should try it at some point, because this is a game worth talking about. This is seriously a game where I cannot think of a flaw. They have fixed the tiny problems I had to make a game that was already nearly perfect, completely perfect. But, okay, I'm done gushing about this. Let's back up, I'm gonna calm down, and let's try and put a big number on it. Let's head on over to the ratings board. I am giving Shadow of the Colossus Remake a 10 out of 10. Normally, I'm not a really big fan of the idea of remasters because I feel like sometimes they feel like nothing more than a big cash cow. They're just trying to get extra money for something they already made. But in this case, it feels very necessary. A new generation is now going to be exposed to a genuine masterpiece of gaming art. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. This has been DreamcastGuy with another review. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I'm just going to throw this out randomly at the end. I am really hoping that the Final Fantasy VII Remake can be even half as awesome as this is. Right now we have almost no news on that remake, and you know what? This game is just so freaking fun, I'm hoping that it at least comes close to this. Oh, hey! I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.